Okay. Welcome everyone to the Kindness Academy's weekly online conferences. And our special guest today is Michelle, help me pronounce it right, Colchin, Dino?
Addino-Colchin.
Addino-Colchin,
I have a
right.
hyphenated name.
I understand. And if I could share a little bit about my experience of Michelle and of course Araya, who's also with us today. We create music connected to spirit, and Michelle has been a part of some concerts, I think, that we've done in Michigan, and she shared with us at that time that she created an album worth of songs that were specifically tailored to the vibratory frequency of angels that were present in her universe. And so she may share with us something a little bit about that and some music, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Cam. By the way, it's really great to see you. I've been keeping all of you guys in prayers. It's great to see you again.
Yeah.
The Angel album is a different type of album. It started because of an artist. I was at a retreat center and this artist had these angel drawings strewn around the room. And when I came in, I looked at the angel drawings and I said, I could sing these. And I had never done anything like that before, and I don't even know why I said it, how it even came out of my mouth. Then I never met the artist before, and she came up to me and she says, I know you can.
Wow.
So we started to talk and decided to collaborate on this album. So what I started to do was to take the drawings that she had done, the original drawings, I brought them into the studio and put them on a stand while I was playing and singing. And I allowed the drawing to speak to me, and I just connected to God and allowed the angel to sing through me. In the middle of the project, her name was Linda Berry. And in the middle of the project, she passed away. And what I found out was that during the last year of her life, she's been a professional artist her whole life, but her work was completely different than this before the last year of her life. So the last year of her life, she started doing these angels. And I believe that she also channeled these angels in her drawings. So it was just interesting how we collaborated. After she passed away, I connected with her daughter, Megan Ellis, and we decided to continue the project. So that's how the Angel album came about. And each of the women who were at that retreat that day picked an angel that they thought was theirs. So there's a special connection with these women also, that each one of the songs that came out were specific to that particular angel. And so each one of those women also was connected to that angel. So it was very mystical. It was very mystical experience. And since then, I finished the album, and there's no words. It's just channeling. So I'm playing and singing, but I'm not thinking while I was doing it at all. It was just connection. And I just allowed. So I find it very interesting since then that I started to shift a bit in my composition style. I've always been very improvisational in my style of playing, but I've also written music. My other two albums, I actually were more lyric based, and A Course in Miracles and different spiritual concepts. But this album was completely different. It just creates a space, an opening to receive God's love. So since then, I've been using this as my prayer style, and I've been able to connect to people for healing and create music like this for people for whatever they need. And I don't need to know what they need. I just connect and ask God for a special song for the person, and something will come out. So I thought might be interesting today for anybody who is listening to this or might listen to this later on, that we might connect to everybody who's here and do a special song for everybody who's here today at some point. But I have found that this is such a teaching for me in my life. Doing music like this has been a huge teaching for how to live my life differently. I've realized that in the past, as a composer, you know, you're always in this analytical thinking. And you're thinking, well, what word would go well with this? And I need to rhyme this, and I need to put this together. You know, you're laughing, Uria, you know what I mean. And then you're like, well, this little part, this could have a little part here, and then I could make a little flute part here, and whatever you're thinking. And I'm realizing that as I start moving my prayer style into this form, my life turns into this form. So I'm no longer thinking so much, and I'm moving more into just allowing and receiving information. And I had a awareness, and I'd just like to share this, if you don't mind, about most of my life I've been the musician. So, you know, as a musician, you sit at the piano or your instrument and you're playing it. You're thinking about, maybe you're playing Beethoven, so you're reading music, you're thinking about your finger style, you're thinking about how to play it. But what I realized, I had this epiphany moment during one of these channeling things I was doing for myself, that I'm not the musician in my life. I'm the piano. So I realized I had forgotten who I am. And it just brought me back to the Course in Miracles themes, you know. I've forgotten who I really am. I am not the giver in this scenario of life. I am the receiver. And if you think about what an instrument does, it just sits there and receives you. So I started playing around with this in my life, and as my prayer style started to turn into this, you know, no longer was I the musician receiving anything. I was actually the piano receiving it. I realized I didn't need to do anything. I didn't need to plan. I needed to practice so that my muscles would work. But other than that, I really didn't need to do anything. And like the Course in Miracles says, I need do nothing. And it's such a freeing feeling, isn't it?
Yes.
So it's interesting how, you know, God moves in us to give us life lessons with our craft. I have found that I'm not good at this sometimes. You know, I feel like I want to be in charge. I want to be the musician sitting at the piano and playing and being in charge of it. I want to be in charge of my life. I want to have my hand in it. But when I take my hand off of it is when there's freedom and peace. And so I know that is my true self, is being that way. It's just living in this world can be a bit of a challenge being that way. Well, I mean, people don't seem to understand when you're like, oh, well, I don't need to plan for this. And here's a perfect example is right before this meeting today, or yesterday, I was sitting praying about it, and I kept getting this feeling, don't plan, just be yourself. Don't worry about it. I'll give you the words to say. You don't have to worry about what you're going to do or what song you're going to sing, or I'll tell you at the time. And that was such a scary feeling. I'm like, I'm going to do it though, because that's my message today. I'm going to just live it right here, right now. So that's what I did. And I got a message too from God that said, you can write notes all you want, but this isn't going to go that way. So isn't that funny?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, maybe if I can just reflect a little bit, Michelle, I think as musicians, all of us here, and hopefully the folks that'll be reviewing this on YouTube and from the website, were attracted to the art form because it's an open door. You know, as Ellie was sharing with me the other day, she had an epiphany at one point that kind of maybe shocked her conceptual mind when she realized there was only one note when someone was showing her how to improvise, and that kind of freaked her out because music is our version of connecting with an open door, and that can be an incredibly powerful and overwhelming experience for us who then stay in the open door, because then it seems like the program is we're also here in a body, we're doing our lives, and how does that integrate? And there's the aspect of the head and the heart too, like you were sharing. The head is like, well, let's create a pathway and a template so that we can use that to communicate, and the heart says it's all about the give, it doesn't matter about the notes. And the miraculous moment of that integration, I think, is where the energy really exists. Because if we were all heart, maybe there would be no formulation, and if we were all head, it wouldn't sound very good, you know. And I also think maybe there's an integrative aspect in our relationships and also within ourselves, and coming towards wholeness. We're all coming towards wholeness as beings who can integrate that yin and the yang of the head and the heart, you know.
That's the challenge, isn't it? I find that we have to find some way to utilize our intellect in a way that it doesn't get in the way. If we, you know, like as musicians, you know, you do need to be aware of what's going on. You know, I mean, it's not like you just go off into la la land and, you know, and allow the music to flow through you completely. I mean, there is that awareness, but it's almost like a stepping back and not letting yourself be in control. You're still there, but somebody else is in control.
Right. Yeah. And
Like
also
all faculties, yeah.
and sometimes that can be a really powerful mirror when we're collaborating, because if you disappear into your own kind of bubble, then you're not communicating with your fellow musicians, you know. Well, would Araya like to share a little bit about, would you like to share your experiences of that process?
Well, it just sounds so right on to me. That's exactly how it works. My approach, I used to call it the hover technique, because I would start playing like by myself or with a group of people who weren't necessarily musicians, but were willing to be part of the music in whatever way they felt called, right, in that moment. Just like we all had to go through the open door without knowing what was going to be on the other side, right? And so I would start to play, and what I discovered was you have to be willing to get ugly for a minute, to let your music be ugly, you know, like just crappy and not together, and the notes aren't quite right. But then there's this moment where it just goes, and everyone comes together. And that's when you know you've hit that point where the music has taken you to a place out of time.
Right. That's beautiful.
Everyone gets high.
Yeah.
My favorite part, as you know.
Yeah. If I could just share a little bit of Ellie and I, we sometimes work very well as a team of musicians in South America. We would open up the floor for music and healing, and because of Ellie and our connection, she would sort of just proceed into the audience, and I would attempt to interpret the moment just through my instrument. And some of the most powerful experiences I've ever had in my life have been seared in my memory associated with those moments, because I think as musicians, we're not musicians without an audience. And if the audience feels completely included and represented, that's when things really energize into a transformative moment. And I don't know, Ellie, maybe you'd like to tell us about your experience doing that. I don't know.
Ellie, just so you know, you're
Hi.
on tape.
Hi guys, I just unmuted my mic. Is that right?
Yeah, you're good. We can hear you.
Hi. Oh, I love what you guys have been saying. So good to be around you guys again. I love you guys. Wow. And I just feel like we just met once and we're just all from the same place. For me, it's a little bit different because I don't, my strength isn't improvisation or like light playing. I don't know how you describe it, just like going into the light and playing something. So usually I'm interpreting something, which is fine. I can still extend, you know, because I'm able to get into the character so deeply from my acting experience. And I think the deeper I get into the character, the more communicative the music is. So that I'm finally just singing everything in first person and everything's a love song to God.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm more of a, you know, classical player. We had a good time last year. We got some guys together in a group called the International Peace Orchestra, and we got to do some fundraisers for the homeless shelters here in Madison, as well as this place in El Paso, Texas called the Annunciation House, which takes children who have just gotten out of their court cases and don't have anywhere to go until their sponsor picks them up. And this house in El Paso takes in 100 people a day. It was funny when we did this fundraiser because kind of right in the middle of it, I was on stage and a woman walked up to me and said that she had just come from El Paso, from the Annunciation House. She had just been serving there for 6 weeks. And so, yeah, we had never heard of the place. I was immediately drawn to do the fundraiser for them. And then we were playing at Common Ground for this fundraiser. And, I think it was International Day of Peace, actually, the September thing I always do on September 21st. And yeah, she just walked up to the stage and said, I just got back from the Annunciation House. So we got to get her on stage and talk about what the Annunciation House does and what it was like for her to serve and blah, blah, blah. So she actually put a big check in the coffers that night too. So I got to send a big box. I had everybody do to draw a blessing on a big link piece of paper, like colored paper. A lot of people even put it in Spanish. And then we put all those links together of all the blessings, and the paper chain was really super, super long. So I got this huge box, and then I put the money in the middle of an envelope, and I put some of the chain in the box and then the money in the middle, and then this filled up this huge chain box. Anyway, they got it and got to open it and read all the blessings. That was a completely miraculous moment when that woman walked up to me on the stage and she's like, I just got back from there. That was perfect. We got to hear all about her stories, and it really lended itself to letting everybody know exactly what they were giving to. So that was a really miraculous moment. And yeah, last year I was really ill, so I was in my wheelchair a lot, and the band that we were playing with didn't care about my physicality. That was awesome, because like sometimes I'd have to lay down on stage during rehearsal, or bring a pad and lay off stage during rehearsal. You guys are used to that. I remember the green room that we met in.
Hi, Barb.
And
Hi.
yeah,
Oh, it's so nice that you're here.
Fine. Oh, hi, Aurea. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, hi,
Oh,
honey.
hi. My camera stuff doesn't work, but I was in hopes to see you. I
Yeah.
finally figured out how to get in.
who is it?
It's
Barb
Barb
Seiler.
Seiler. She was in Michigan. She heard Michelle play too.
Gosh, how wonderful. Welcome, welcome. Well, I'll stop
Thank
talking
you.
now and give it back to Michelle. I'm glad you showed up. Hey,
Thank you.
guys, I love you very much.
Somebody help her. Cam, can you help her get on her
I will try, but it may
I'll mute
be
my
that
microphone.
it,
Love
it
you.
it may be that Bob's video itself on her end. I can ask her to do it electronically, but I think it may
It
be
says unable to access camera.
that. Okay. Well, hopefully you can see us and we can hear
I
you.
can.
It's
Yeah,
great. Well,
Oh,
like,
it's wonderful.
isn't this fun? We're all here, and maybe I'll just say a little bit, and then I'll hand it back to Michelle. Just that's partly why we do this, is because in that opening and the uncertainty principle exists to bring in miraculous moments, and those are the inspiring moments that keep us breathing and keep us connected. You know, that was definitely a bright moment that we. And I'd like to maybe share too. Ellie's physicality, Araya's physicality, Michelle, you too. You've been through many death experiences in life, and I support and applaud all of you for continuing to give your gifts away. I'm grateful.
That's right. I forgot we all three have the same thing.
Yeah,
Gosh, that's hard. Wow.
I'm really grateful that you guys are still here, just giving your love away, because I experienced that without impediment.
Thank you, Cam.
Thank you, Cam.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We appreciate that support. Because when you don't feel good, sometimes it's really hard to know when you can and when you're not supposed to. And I guess that's also the lesson that we're talking about, you know, listening for that inner voice to say, yes, I can use you now. And one of the things that came to me in prayer recently was that God can use us even when we're broken. He can still move through us. It doesn't matter if our body is experiencing something. His love and peace can still channel through us. It's not impeded.
Wow.
Just like a broken jar, or a jar with a big crack in it. You know, I've probably heard that story about is it a vessel? It's a broken vessel. You can still use. They may be a little leaky, but they still do the job.
Mhm. So you gonna play us something?
Sure. I thought I would just go into a space and offer up the time right now as a holy instant. And I invite everyone to do it with me. And I wasn't sure what would happen on Zoom with music and stuff. So I'm just going to start playing and allow the Spirit to just do whatever the Spirit would like for us. And before I do that, one of the things I like to do before I start is to just explain a little bit about the power of music that I've realized in talking to some sound healers and things too, and also some science very briefly, that when you hear sound actually creates light. And when you have sound, the way a sound particle happens, in order for it to actually produce the sound, there needs to be two sound particles that bounce against each other to create friction. And in that friction creates light. So in a sense, when we're singing or playing or doing anything, we're creating light that comes forth. And in bioresonance technology and medicine, they've realized that the body uses light as information. So that like the highways of the body are opened up through light particles. So in essence, our bodies and our beings are pure light and like a star. So when we are doing music, we're opening up the light pathways. And then the second thing I'd like to just mention is the light pathways, or the light in us, not only in our physical body, but in our energetic body and our auric field. At least that's what science calls it. In spiritual sense, we might say that's our true spirit, our true being, our spirit self. The light is what retains the information. So when we're praying, we offer an intention. When we're singing, our intention links on to that light particle and sends the information to the body or to this, or wherever it needs to go. So I always thought that was very interesting because I also have a math background.
My mind is blown.
So I wanted to, a reason why I'm saying this is every time we produce a sound, if we link an intention to it, it has the possibility of opening us in a way that we don't even realize. We could even add a prayer to it, or a thought, or just even what you're thinking about, or even you're meditating on God. You know, you could just meditate on whatever image comes to you. There's information that comes through the sound because it produces light. And it goes both ways. So we can offer an intention, or we can receive an image, or we can receive information. And what I have found sometimes when I'm doing this with myself is that I'll get information. I'll receive something for me, just specifically for me, you know, as I'm offering my prayer to God and emptying myself, I will receive something sometimes. So I wanted to explain that, because as we're using this, we could, as we're moving into this quiet space with this music, that there's possibilities. So I just wanted to welcome everyone who's listening right now to open up to that possibility of anything, of maybe God wants to bless us in this holy moment. And then the second part of this, and I've learned some of this stuff from Jonathan Goldman and Steve Halpern, who are like some really big sound healer people, I guess, and some of their conferences. But in order for us to receive this, we have to be in the present moment. God is in the present moment, in that holy instant. So if our mind is going into the past, or if we're thinking about what we're going to eat for dinner, or if we're, you know, or if we're going into the future, or if we're in the past, it's harder. I'm not saying it's impossible there, but it's harder to receive the space. And so, however you want to call that, to receive the light, to receive the energy, to receive the information, because we're thinking about something else. If we stay in the present moment, somehow God speaks louder. And it may not be, you know, everybody receives and understands God differently. For me, I sometimes get images, or I'll get a sense about something. Other people may know they receive things differently. So maybe they'll have a dream tonight, or they'll get an intuition. That I feel like everybody is, we are all the same. We are all communicating with the Holy Spirit constantly throughout the day. And our minds are always in the past or future. So this is an opportunity to get us into the present moment. So I'm sorry that was a little long-winded. I didn't mean that to go that long. I wanted to explain that because it's been integral to me.
No, I think it can be really helpful sometimes to, some of the things we go through can be a little bit invisible. And if we can make those available to folks who aren't necessarily musicians, or anyone who doesn't really understand that that's an actual real event that God will manifest directly through to you, and that we will experience communication, and that's an awesome thing to verbalize. Thank you.
So would you like to do a song? Would you like to start with that? I know that, you know, musicians, I find common ground with all of you musicians here, because we all do this all the time. And it's nice to meet all of you. All of this. Hi, Karen, by the way.
Hello, I'm sorry.
How's that? I just muted your mic just for the moment.
Me?
No, Karen's
Oh,
was,
feeding back.
yeah, was feeding back. I hope that's okay. I can unmute if you would like. Just let me know in a chat or anything like that. Yeah, let's play on Michelle. Welcome, Pram. Great to see you.
Hey, Prim. Where is he?
Hey, everybody.
Hi. Oh.
Hey.
Okay, Michelle, hit us.
All right, here we go. I'd like to invite everyone to just get into that present moment state. However you do that, go into the knowing that right now the Spirit is flowing. Just feel yourself just being exactly where you are right now in your chair on this Zoom meeting right here on June 16th. And take a couple deep breaths in and feel God breathing in you, for God is in our breath. And if you feel, once you start breathing in and out, it's almost like an invisible column in the middle of your body where the present moment is, that grounds you into this present space. The past is over. The future is no, you don't need to worry about the future. Right here, right now, this is where there is freedom. After I'm going to start to play as the Spirit directs me, and as if you hear when I'm done, I'd like you to come back to this space and let there be some silence after the music ends, because it is in the silence after the sound where the light comes. And I just ask the angels, all angels of God, Holy Spirit, Christ, the light of God to surround us for the highest good of everybody here. I ask for healing in all forms for all of us. And I also want to remind those who just came in, When I do this, there are no lyrics. I'm just singing whatever comes out of my mouth. Sometimes it's names of God, but most of the time there's usually no words. But sometimes people hear words. So I don't want you to try to figure out what I'm saying. Just move into it however the Spirit directs you.
Beautiful. Mm.
So I invite everybody to come back if they come back to that centering place and become aware of our Zoom session again. Would anybody like to share anything they've experienced with that, if at all?
I kept hearing the words, who I am. And it was beautiful.
Beautiful.
I cannot take credit for any of these things. It just comes like that. And I feel so blessed to be able to feel that energy coming through me. Like, as a musician, it's been such a blessing to be able to do something purposeful, I guess, with my gifts. Something that means something, that brings forth God. And I too hear I am who I am. And I don't know why that comes out like that. But I am in the present moment. That's all, God is in the present moment.
I always like being reminded of who we really are and where we really are.
Lovely.
Was that Barbara?
Yeah. In heaven with God where we never left.
That's lovely. Thank you, Barb.
Yes.
I sometimes I experience music as a visual event in my mind's eye, and I was seeing a lot of whirling consciousness at a certain point, and a very condensed, compact and powerful light healing being translated.
Wow.
I also saw colors that were pink and red, glimmering circles with rays coming out of them that were more condensed. And then all of a sudden they just flew out from center, just out. It was beautiful.
Wow. That's really cool.
I think for me, and I'm always transported by your music, Michelle. Thank you. It happens the same way every time I hear you. But for me, it was so ethereal. And then that tiny, teeny shift from minor to major at the very end was such a different change and an uplift. I love going from major to minor and feeling the release of the conflict in that way. And that's what I think, music or acting, of course it's done through us, and yet we set up the conflict and the resolution because that's what time is. It's a conflict and then a resolution, and music can only be heard in time, right? Otherwise you'd only be hearing one note.
Right.
So in moving through that minor modality, and then just the bright light of who I am, that's just a straight connect. But then, at the very end, then just, I don't even know if you were aware of it, just changing to the major, it was like, that's where the angels came in. Yeah, I just, thank you, Michelle. Every time I hear you, I'm transported, and Yeah, I've always loved you, Michelle. Thanks, everyone.
You too, Ellie. I feel the same way about you, Ellie.
I'd like to add too, maybe that, just demonstrating that there really is no impediment to connecting fully with who you are. I think you've been able to demonstrate that beautifully, Michelle. There's, in a world of extraordinary pleasures or undeniable treasure, whatever the jazz song, Ellie's laughing. I'm glad there's you. This is my experience with true healers. They're able to demonstrate that there is no impediment to access for all of us in any given moment. But you demonstrated through music, and everyone has their art and craft that exists for all of us as unique beings. And I don't know. I encountered a guy called the Master Teacher for many years, and he was very good at giving us a direct shot too. And that, I guess, I'm reminded of experiencing the time spent with him too. Thank you.
I just want to reiterate what you said, because I just want to reiterate to the people who are here, who are listening to this, that what I am doing is not special. I just happen to have a music gift, and so I'm using it. And I just would love everyone to think about what their gift is and how they can spread love with it, how they're being called to share God's love through it. Even it could be anything. I mean, people who are financial advisors, who tend to be in their head all the time, for example, can share love with their clients by the way that they are and how they manage people's money. I mean, it goes throughout the whole gamut of how you could be expressing love everywhere at all times. So I just want to give people a little thought today, how you are spreading your compassion around. Not only your passion, but your compassion. And that this connection we all have at all times, it's always there for all of us. We may feel depressed sometimes. I mean, we may have moments, but God is always there, always moving, always flowing. And I find that when I get those moments when I'm depressed or I'm in a mood or whatever, I've just forgotten that the flow is there. And sometimes music can be a really beautiful way to reconnect. And it has been my reconnection device. I mean, it really helps me reconnect. And then the second part is when you share it, when you share your gift, whatever it is, somehow when the love flows through you, you're reconnected again. So just want to give people a little pondering, about what is your gift and how are you using it already? And pay attention to how it makes you feel. I know I'm off my game when I feel like a fish climbing a tree. I feel suffocated, I'm distracted, disoriented, and I'm not in the flow. I just need to remember to go jump back in the water. Then I need the water, I need to realize the flow is always there for me. God is always there. So I offer that. Each one of us has a special gift that we've been given. Sometimes it's not even a physical gift. It's just the gift of being love to everyone in your life.
Wow. Thank you.
And I know, Allie, you're so good at that, dearest. You just
Thank you.
have a bright light that just comes right out of you.
Thank you.
So do you, Cam. You two are very special people.
Thank you.
And you can tell when we can kind of connect that way. We feel that with each other.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody else who's here and listening, and everyone else who's here, Prem and Barbara and Karen, blessed, you guys are also all blessed. And I know Karen too. Karen is a very special, gifted
Yeah.
person. We all are. Nobody's left out of this. So I just want
Thank
to,
you.
sometimes people say to me, oh, well, you just have this special gift. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's not special. We are all gift. We are all the same gift.
Wow. Thank you. Wow. Wow. Mm.
So, like I said in the beginning of this talk thing, whatever this is, this beautiful discussion, we all just need to practice. We're all in practice. You know, we're
Right.
remembering God. We're practicing how to be the piano instead of the, you know, we're practicing how to let God just flow through us. We're practicing
Right.
to remember ourselves. So it's okay when we're not.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Right.
That reminds me of a Rumi line from a Rumi poem.
Yeah.
We are not, let's see, hang on. We are not, who makes the music? Not the flute player, right? So that's where you be the piano and let yourself be played, right? That's the thing. That's
Yeah.
beautiful, just gorgeous. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you, everybody. And
Yes, thank you.
thank you, Cam and Ellie and everybody for asking me to be on today. It's been such
Absolutely.
I could feel your energy so strongly. I feel God so strongly in between everybody here.
Me too. I'm in my pajamas.
Yay!
Mark for showing up, man.
I have my slippers on.
I feel Ellie's light much more strongly when she's in her pajamas.
Oh, really?
It's very curious.
Maria has her hand up. Oh, she's clapping.
Oh,
Happy.
yeah.
Oh, nice.
Does anyone else have any other I think this is just an hour, right, Cam?
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other thoughts as we close?
Just that the body as communication device is something that a friend and I were studying in chapter 8 around 11 o'clock this morning. And your discussion about extending love, extending all of this outward was perfect.
I love that chapter 8. I love chapter 8. 8 and 18 I used to read together a lot.
And if there's anybody listening who doesn't know what we're talking about the Course in Miracles chapters.
Prem, do you want to check in? There he is.
I hereby check in.
And he's gone.
I was late, but it was great.
Thank you. Yeah.
Said the actress to the bishop.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say I love you all. I'm very grateful for this event. What we'll do now is I will take the recording of this and place it on the Kindness Academy online video conference page, so that everyone can share with their friends and participants. And I will also love to invite, hi Karen, it's good to see you. Finally, yay, the video is working. I want to just spread the word. I'm looking for hosts and anyone who would like to be the central focus of one of these events. Hopefully next week we'll be doing divine movement and Kundalini yoga with Mariella School, yet to be confirmed, but I'm excited by that. And you know, it's wide open. Musicians, artists, teachers, mathematicians in the middle
Karen.
of the pirouette. And Karen too, yeah. Awesome.
We want her next.
Exactly.
I just like to do a little plug for Karen. Karen wrote this beautiful, co-authored this beautiful book on healing trauma. It's amazing what her co-author came up with. If you want to have her on to talk about that, and possibly that might be, there's a lot of people going through that right now, especially with what's going on in our world.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to do a little plug for that because
Yeah.
gifted mystical person.
Yeah, that would be wonderful, wonderful, Karen. I knew as soon as you spoke that we wanted to hear more from you. So if there's just a way that, Cam, you could just give her your email address and then you could decide upon a date. Okay?
Thank you so much. I apologize for the audio difficulties. I tried hard, but that noise worked. Anyway,
No
thank
problem. All right, I love you. We'll sign off today. Karen, I've sent you my email address, and hopefully we can communicate and create
That'd be
something.
Thank
awesome.
you. Michelle,
Love you guys.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you. See you next
Love
week.
you, Michelle.
Yeah. Everybody.
See you
Peace.
next week. Whoever can make it next week, 1 o'clock on Tuesdays.
Happy guys.
Ciao.
Good to know.
All right, good to almost see you.
See you
Thank you,
again.
Lorraine.